Hi, I'm Tricia, Research Manager at Immerse.
I'm Christina, Curriculum and Assessment Manager at Immerse.
Welcome to Connecting the Dots, Converse on the Verse. This show is all about diving into the pedagogy and efficacy behind Immerse, the first virtual reality language learning platform designed specifically for live language teaching and learning.
In this episode, we look at how we assess members in Immerse. Hello, everyone. Good to see everyone back here. So today, connecting the dots, we're going to be talking about upskilling. Tricia's been doing a little bit of research into upskilling. It's a big buzzword we hear out there all the time. So, Tricia, I'm just going to dive right in here. Tell us, what is upskilling? How are we defining that today?
Yeah, that's a great question, Christina. I have been digging a lot into upskilling specifically for language learning. But let's talk about what it is. So upskilling really is just learning a new skill or, enhancing the skills you have so that you can be more effective in the workplace. And that can look like, a technical skill, for example, I'm currently trying to upskill my coding abilities, or it could be more of a soft skill. Really anything that your employer or you as an employee think would help you do your job more effectively.
Okay, great. And I know there's been a lot out there recently, all these trends we're seeing in the workplace related to upskilling and language. So, what are some of those trends that you've been diving into?
Yeah, so a huge trend right now in upskilling for the workforce, not even just language learning, but in general, is anything related to AI, which is not shocking. AI has been a huge buzzword the past, 2 years at this point. So anything related to AI, personalized learning, self-directed learning, um, and for language learning specifically, it kind of falls under that, umbrella as well. So any AI language learning tools that can really personalize, the learning experience for students, and help them become fluent faster are kind of what we're pushing towards right now for workforce upskilling.
Okay, and I imagine that has a lot to do with cost, right?
Yeah.
Businesses always trying to reduce costs. So the more that they can use these AI tools, right, to help in
Right.
that billing.
Well, I
Okay.
think I think it's cost, and it's also I think it's three things. Of course, it's cost. Businesses are always focused on that, but I think it's also the scale.
Yeah.
That's something that has been talked about a lot. Is how do we scale learning experiences? You know, especially in like underserved communities. How do we scale? For the U.S. workforce, um, language learning, and the reality is it is easier to scale with AI tools. Even if those are in complement to live instruction. So I think it's scaling. And again, I think a lot of it is that, kind of personalized learning and also just wanting workers to be more familiar with AI in general. Like we are going to see it becoming we already have, become part of our daily work lives. And so I think that's part of it too, is just how can we really learn to learn with these tools and then work with them.
Right. Okay. And yeah, definitely with the AI too, we can adapt and make changes so much
Right.
faster with when it comes to instructions. So yeah, I think scalability is huge there. So tell me, why is it important? Why is it important to upskill language in the workplace?
Yeah. So I'm going to throw a couple of stats at you, Christina. And again, as we said, I've been doing a lot of research on this, and some of them that I came across, I was truly shocked to see just how important it is. So Pearson recently came out with their like English for Business report of 2024, and they found that miscommunication in the workplace due to language barriers costs the average organization $62 million a year in
What?
productivity
62
because
million.
yeah, because you're losing so much time. You're having miscommunication, but then you're also losing so much time because you can't communicate effectively. So that was a huge one that I saw just, in terms of global reason to care
Right.
about this. And that was for really targeting English specifically. And then kind of in that same realm, we know, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics put out some research in 2023 showing that foreign born workers or immigrants or refugees anyone who's not a non-native English speaker represents 1 in 5 US workers. So it's a huge number. And those workers are more likely to actually, what they talk about in the report as well, is that they're more likely to work those frontline jobs that we're constantly seeing labor shortages. And so
Oh,
it's kind of this cycle, right? It's like they don't have the language skills we need. We need more people to fill these positions. And so that was a stat that really caught my attention. And then again, in the case of English, and we can talk about other languages as well, but in the case of English, the Migration Policy Institute in 2018 put out data showing that the US currently only has the capacity to provide English like language workforce training to 4% of this population. So there's a huge
yeah,
gap,
there is a
right? I mean,
gap.
there's a huge demand and there's a, reason for that demand, looking at the cost that it's costing organizations to not address this. And then there's not enough tool, right? And so again, I think that goes back to the AI thing we were talking about is how do we scale this and get from, addressing 4% of learners to much, much more than that.
Well, I think you kind of answered my next question for me. How does not upskilling affect a business? So clearly, yeah,
Yeah.
you have more to add to that. Go
I,
ahead.
I could add even more because, I think in the US there's, we very clearly see the benefit of English, obviously. But I was also really curious at looking at what's the data that we have on the important other languages like Spanish and French. And so the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages, as you know, they put out a big report back in 2019 titled like Making Languages Our Business or something. So it's all about the importance of language skills in the workplace. And they found that 1 in 4 US employers has actually lost business for not having language skills.
Wow.
And that 50%, 56% of businesses predict that in the next 5 years, their demand for especially languages like English, or sorry, not English, Spanish and French is going to increase. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's definitely, losing business, losing costs to the lack of productivity. There's definitely huge incentives for businesses to do that.
So corporations are obviously looking at solutions, right?
Right.
So let's talk about some of the solutions. We can talk about some of the solutions that may already be out there, but what is Immerse doing and how can Immerse help as well?
Yeah. It's a great question. So Immerse, we've talked about it in past episodes. We shifted our product to where we were working with higher ed institutions to provide language training at scale for students. And now we've essentially done the same thing. We're now partnering with businesses to provide language training. We have adapted our curriculum to be more business focused. And I mean, you could talk way more about this, but I believe, we've added a level 2 so that we can address learners at higher levels and really get them the skills they need for their work. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how we're addressing it is partnering with those organizations to provide language training at scale for their employees.
And so it looks like businesses and corporations are making this part of their employee package, right? So just like we might take a training in HR, are employees then taking these trainings especially during work time for some of these businesses, or is it outside of work?
I think it could be both. To be honest, I don't have the data on, what percentage is doing what, but I will say, for the companies that have started implementing these services, we've seen companies like Amazon, Walmart, massive organizations implementing this type of training. There was a study done in 2023 that surveyed 6,000 employees who had been participating in these programs with their workforce. And it found that 95% of them improved their confidence in the language. 93% of them improved time or saved time at work thanks to these new language skills. And 87% of them achieved a career goal. That was either like getting a
Wow.
promotion or, a raise, anything like that. Which ultimately made them, company and in the workforce. And so, this is the last little stat I'll throw out because I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you. But LinkedIn Learning put out like their report of 2024, and they found that 90% of organizations are concerned about employee retention. And upskilling, whether it's for language learning or just any type of upskilling, has been found to be the number one retention strategy because, or the number one most effective way to retain employees because people want to learn new skills at work, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I'm not sure if that answers your question about, if they're doing it at work or outside of work, but it's definitely being offered by employers as part of their package.
Oh, it's awesome. Okay. Well, this was really, really informative and I think so timely for what we're seeing, in the US and even across the globe these days. So upskilling and upskilling with language. So thank you for sharing all those stats with us today. I know
Of
in our
course.
future episodes, I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more about upskilling and the difference between, teaching language for everyday life and teaching that
Right.
professional language. So appreciate the time today, Tricia. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Great chatting with you, Christina.